Hi, I'm Caroline. Welcome to the Stylish Pen, where Susan Scott and I have authentic conversations on the sometimes heartbreaking world of writing, editing, and publishing. Today, the big question is, do you judge a book by its cover? Welcome. So, do you judge a book by its cover?
Totally, totally.
Of course.
I would have I thought about renaming this "Let's Judge a Book by Its Cover" because
Oh, even better.
we
I'll
all we all do, right? That's the moment of contact with this object that hopefully we desire and that will be a part of our lives for decades and decades once you give in to that thing. But first contact is with the cover. So the cover is what's invested in
do.
the cover is huge.
What I love the best is I'm going to out you on this one because it was really funny. It made me laugh out loud. Is in our notes, I had written, "Why does it matter?" And your answer was marketing. Duh.
Marketing, duh. I know.
Right?
I know, because we so want it to be about the author and the beautiful writing, and it's really about the marketing,
It
right? How
is. It
to
is.
yeah, moving product.
Yeah.
I know, but it's such an interesting dance because we never talk about there really isn't ever space where we discuss what is going on with
Hmm.
the cover and how critical that is, or who are the people that design the cover and who's behind the artwork and why are there trends and what difference does it make? How do you appeal to an audience? It's amazing that we just don't talk about that very much. We talk about
Yeah.
content, but we don't really talk about the style on the outside.
And
So
it's funny because when I was for my book, Tell Me What You See, which of course, why would I have a copy of it next to me? I really wanted that feeling of it being like a moleskin notebook, and
yeah,
I had this idea of what I wanted it to look like. But when I got the first proofs, I guess, for the artwork for the cover, it looked like a weird romance novel, and it was this like high gloss thing, and I was like, this is a journal for writers and creatives to like work in.
yeah.
So I don't think that fits. And it was a really funny conversation, and I had this moment when I first saw the cover of just the sinking feeling in my stomach. I couldn't even answer their email, and I had to give myself a little talk. I was actually walking somewhere, and I had to give myself a little talk and say, okay, just breathe. You haven't seen this email yet. And I managed to fight it out, and I'm really happy with the cover now. Even though maybe, I don't know, but the marketing person and I really did not see eye to eye for it at all.
Okay, so this is great, right? Because we're taking people behind the scenes. This is exactly what we want to do. So, what did you do? Did you talk directly to the marketing person, or who did you have to go through? Or was it a creative hub? Was it two of you, three of you? Just tell us what happened.
Yeah, so there was three of us, and luckily it was a small press, and and at the end of the day, I was friends with everybody and I still am, I think. So it was I really had this sinking feeling, but I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings either. So I
Mhm.
actually reached out to the editor, who her and I had a much more we understood each other a lot better in that way, where we had the same vision really for things.
Okay. Yeah.
And she backed me on it, and she actually wound up redesigning it, and it was thanks to her. She actually put it together. I kind of told her the feeling I wanted, and we knew, of course, because there are color photographs in my book. There's a real world expense to that.
Right.
um, and so it makes my book just a little bit more expensive because of that. And also with the cover, but she actually managed to find the paper that it does have this kind of slightly oily feel to it, so it's not like a high
Mhm.
gloss.
Right.
And then also she just managed to find it so that she just managed to design it so that everybody was happy with it. And the person who was more geared towards marketing, I think she conceded. She was, I don't know how thrilled
Okay.
she was at the end of the day, but I think she understood, and so she let it go that way.
Okay.
But that it was a really I really had a moment of I can't let it be published this way.
Yeah.
It looks like a weird romance novel, and the people who I and I'm sorry to romance novelists, because what fits for a romance novel does not necessarily fit for a
Exactly.
writing journal.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, maybe the audience is as wide. I don't know, but I think it stays true to the book, and the cover does tell you what the book is about right away.
Yeah, which is what you want, and
Mhm.
which the editor understood,
Yeah.
and the marketing person, you just don't know what was going on there, but happily it had a happy ending,
Yeah.
and you were able to negotiate through conversation,
Mhm.
which I think really is the ideal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is about that has to be the experience. You have to be able to stand behind the book and love it because you've got that's attached to your name forever and ever. You have to promote it. You have to feel good about it. You can't walk down the street with a sinking feeling in your gut every time
Mhm.
you're going to take your book somewhere. So you have to be attached to it in the same way that you want your readers attached. So that's a good story. That turned out really well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have an interesting story, not my story, thankfully, but I have a story about yes, the sinking feeling version. And so there's a fabulous Montreal novelist called Claire Rothman. And if you Google Claire Holden Rothman is the name she goes by. And if you Google Claire, you'll see she has a stack of beautiful books to her name and all kinds of awards. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. This was the cover for maybe her third book, My October, which is a very Montreal
Yes.
cover,
Yeah.
really nice. This Penguin put this up. They did a beautiful job. But when I first met Claire in the 1990s, she was having a collection of short stories come out with a small press. And this was the cover that they gave her. Let me get this here.
Yeah, there you go. A little bit over. But we see
Totally.
the toilet. We see the toilet paper.
Actually challenged. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me what you see when you
Yeah.
look at this?
Yeah, I see the mirror with some weird toilet paper flying through it.
That's exactly
Which,
what it is.
yeah, I don't understand why there's toilet paper.
To this day, I don't think anybody does. And they even repeat it on the inside, like not just one encounter with it, but two encounters. And then this is the color of the paper on the inside, which anyway. So I don't think anyone has, in the 20 some odd years this has been out, I don't think anyone that I know of has been able to decode
the toilet paper.
What is going on here, right? There's obviously some very powerful referential system, but none of us have been able to figure it out. So when I saw this, and I can promise you there is not a single story in here that references any of these images either. And I practically fainted when I saw this. And I was like, oh my God, oh Claire, oh my God, how do you feel about this? And my first thought was, who would do that to an author? Why would they do that to an author? So what was instructive is just she had a very philosophical response to it, kind of like yours. It was very much kind of like, it is what it is. It's a beautiful collection. I'm just going to go with it as it is. I mean, because it was already printed. This was not a consultation process. Claire basically got her copies. I'm hoping I'm reconstructing this story, but she got her copies in the mail and she opened her box of books that she would be toting in her trunk from here now till eternity. And that was the cover. Wow. So, she could have just been, alienated. She could have, had a hissy fit. She could have done all kinds of things. And she just decided to choose the diplomatic, philosophical front, as in, it is what it is. It'll be a conversation starter. People might not be able to decode it, but they will talk about the cover. That's correct. 2022, I'm still talking about the 1999 cover. And then she just said, I just keep going. And all the other covers of her books are beautiful. Her career has gone like this. Great. She handled it professionally in a beautiful way. Great. And I can promise you this book, every single seminar I do when I talk about books, we talk about this cover. So
maybe it worked.
Inadvertently, it's had an impact, not the impact you would ever, aspire to, but it's just good to remember that sometimes if things don't work out, it's the attitude you have to carry.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. You may not be happy, but I mean, because there's these books, we talked about this. So this is a book, again, this is Riverhead Books and it's Penguin.
Yes.
And this is a really good novel. I really enjoyed it, but I would not have, if had a friend not recommended it, I wouldn't have picked this book up.
Yeah.
Because
Tell
this
me
is,
why. Okay, so talk about
for
what
me, I just don't understand the cover. I don't get it. It doesn't tell me anything. The weird lines and the weird splotches of color. I mean, they it I don't it's not like a book that I want to pick up and cuddle. I know that sounds
uh,
ridiculous, but that's how I feel with all my books, that I
okay.
just want to take them upstairs and put them next to my bed.
Yes, we sleep with our books.
I
Let's
do. I literally do. So this is just not, I don't know, it's just not that interesting.
uh-huh.
And I find that this is a trend lately that they're doing these weird, there's a series of books that look like this, just like there's a series, now that I'm thinking about it, of books of two women and you see their backs and they're like walking away.
Yeah.
And there's a whole series, if you go to the store. I remember I was with my husband a couple of years ago before COVID. We were waiting at the airport and we
Okay.
looked at a bookstore in the airport, and every single book had like the same cover.
That's
And I think
interesting.
it's like these weird trends that they do, but that one just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't speak to me. I don't get it. It doesn't.
So does the cover in any way reference what goes on, either the feel of the story? Because that's a very kind of jarring
Yeah,
image.
I mean, so there's the outline of a woman, the cracks on the ceiling. I mean, sure, but you have to start reading into it, and I wouldn't get it before I'd
Yeah,
have to read the book to then go back to then start philosophizing about the cover,
right.
which I'm just not gonna do.
Which is a lot of work. It's
Yeah,
actually a lot of work,
I'm
right.
just not gonna do that.
But I think, that's so true what you're saying about trends. You can really see that. And often they're seasonal. And obviously there's a
Yeah.
whole, I mean, this is not a conversation where we're going to talk about all the things that go on industry wide. We're just talking about it as sort of educated consumers and
Mhm.
bibliophiles of the first order. But yeah, you can see the color trends, the design trends, and it's interesting to see the ones that hold up over time, like books that people love and you go back to on your shelf repeatedly. I have such a stack of those, like books I just love, and I only bought them because I saw them on the shelf and they spoke to me as soon as I saw
Yeah, because I
you.
I definitely judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
It's
Do
the
you have
first thing
do
I
you have an
see.
example? Like, what's one that you just love? Do you have one that you want to read
Yeah,
short?
this one actually, there's a few, but I mean, well, I'll pull out this one because she's local to
Yes.
Canada.
Yes.
But so Emily Urquhart's book, I really like this book. The minute I saw it, I thought, oh, I had this weird connection with the cover before I knew anything about it, before I knew who she was, before anything.
Mm. Wow.
And maybe it's because my mom was a painter, and so that kind of splotch of paint that still looks like it's maybe in progress, or maybe it might be her father's finished painting. I don't know, but
Mhm.
it still looks like it's in progress to me a little bit. And just the drippy paint, and you can see how it drips over top of the letters.
Mhm.
So the titles incorporated into the cover, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it's
Um,
beautiful.
and then, I mean, I know it's not exactly the part of the cover, but it is just art memory, my father and me. I love that
Yeah.
because it just says so much. So even though I don't know everything, I kind of already know what your book is about.
That's beautiful. I'm sure
Yeah.
she would love that. That's right. That's a really interesting example. You don't have to know that Emily is the daughter of the famous artist Tony Urquhart
Yeah.
to be drawn to it and to feel like you're already connected to it just by the cover and the subtitle. That I think I agree completely. They did a brilliant job of just making that a really attractive, interesting, kind of compelling. So a couple of my favorite examples. I love books in which you get the feel of the story
Yeah.
as soon as you see, again, directionally challenged. Like there, Tara Westover is educated. I mean, that's
Yeah.
brilliant, right? Just if you've heard an interview with her, if you know, even if you know nothing about her outrageous upbringing, as soon as you see the school desk out in the
You
middle of the
kind of know.
you kind of
Yeah,
know,
I
okay,
agree.
there's a juxtaposition of something interesting here. And the small case educated. I love that. This is a classic, an old, no, and now it's an old classic from the 80s. But
Oh
Kate
yeah.
Morris's Dakota, Spiritual Geography, same thing. Big, big sky,
It
right?
just looks like a painting.
Feel of it, right? You just
Yeah.
right away, you're just going to be kind of transported. This is another one of mine. Obviously, I love this very similar kind of look.
Yeah.
Um, Sally Mann, the famous photographer Sally Mann, Hold Still, and this is her as a child. Fabulous.
And you
So
can see she isn't holding still.
she
Sorry.
can't hold
Yeah.
still. I know. And it's a big, big book, and a lot of her photographs are in here, but they did such a beautiful job. In an instant, you get that
Yeah.
tension between the girl who can't not go places, she's spectacular, and that classic thing like, hold still and play with photographic language. Yeah. So I just feel like instantly you pick up books like that and you're halfway there.
Yeah.
You're halfway there. You're already in the story like you are with Emily's book. You're hooked.
Yeah, I think, and I agree, that's huge because there are books that are still sitting on my night table where I look at them and I think, "Ugh, I'll read it. I will read it." And it's disappointing. So Island, Aldous Huxley,
Yes.
old book, right?
Yeah.
I love this book. When I read it the first time in high school, it just spoke to me. There was something magical about this book. I couldn't put it down. And when I moved, I had donated it. So as soon as I found another copy, I bought it. And then I got this. I
Okay.
haven't read it. I haven't read it again. I
Isn't
can't. Like, it's
that interesting?
awful, right? Because this looks like the book your teacher tells you have to read, and you're not going to read it because you're looking at it going, there's like nothing. And it's so not inspirational. I don't know what
No hook whatsoever,
right?
right?
It just looks boring. And why would I want it? Just looks really sterile.
Yeah.
Not my
Yeah.
thing.
The book assignment look, not a good look.
It does. It's
Not a
not
good look. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so here's a couple. Okay, so for the self-published crowd,
Mhm.
here's an interesting look. I like this when you get to choose your own.
Oh, that's nice.
This is quite pretty. So this is the reissue of a book that has sold a gazillion copies, but the author took it, reclaimed the copyright, took one of his own photographs. This is a nice deserted truck out in Taos in northern New Mexico, and just did a beautiful wraparound and designed it and sells it on Amazon. But it has such a beautiful feel to it, and again, of course, I love the big sky. Obviously, I love the big sky book, but it was just like really gratifying. Like, yeah, this person just sort of takes command of his own reissuing process, and you can do beautiful stuff. But the feel of it is really good, as you say. It's a matte cover and beautiful deep colors. Works like a charm. I happen to also sleep with that person, so I give them a break on these things. But
I like that.
Which means I also get consulted about, is this a good idea or a bad idea? I'm like, yeah, that'll be a good cover. Yeah,
It's a good cover. I like it. But that's what it is. It's that, and I don't think the cover has to be complicated. That's the funny thing. So like this book, the book itself was pretty good. It was fine. I'm not here to say anything really negative about writers. It was a pretty good book. It wasn't maybe for me so much, but I picked it up. I literally bought this because of the cover. And also when I got it, which I didn't realize, which just makes me adore this book, is that she has like these amazing pictures of desserts, which just makes me actually love her as a human being more than anything. And the other thing she has is that the pages are different colors. There's sections. So the pink won't come up, but the purple will. So you can see that it's like a violet. It's like a light violet. So she has light blues, greens, yellows, purples. It's pinks. It's just wonderful that way of these. The whole book, because there's recipes in here. But I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Because of that. So it's like what you said, that the cover, the feel, and I'm sure this was an expensive book to put out, but at the same time, yeah, I couldn't put it down. And because the cover, the feel did it.
And you kept going back to it, whether you adore the cover or not. You do love the person as a human being because of
yeah, exactly.
And there's something really attractive. Yeah, they really invested in that. Book.
Yeah, so this is it's Penguin, but it's an offshoot. I think it's a Appetite by Random House. So I think they must have like a food cookbook imprint. I'm guessing that's what it is. I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's just that the whole book, like it's just beautiful. I'm happy to have it on my shelf.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
mission accomplished, right?
Exactly. Okay. So, and as we go into closing, so shout out to
Mhm.
two of my favorite authors. Their books were produced last year,
I have the yeah.
two different presses, two different times, two different authors. But as it turns out, it's actually the same designer. So the colors, like the harmony of it, is beautiful.
Yeah.
One is by In Praise of Retreat is by Kirsty MacLeod,
Yeah.
and this is Susan Olding's Big Reader. And I had the chance to kind of pair them together at a festival and interview them together. What more auspicious than to have twinsy covers? Beautiful color palette. We all dressed accordingly, in our browns and taupes and whites and
Nice.
blacks and yellows. But it was so gratifying. It was like, oh, this is beautiful. Of course, I have to have these together. I actually read them back to back and read them in tandem. There was something about just the beautiful, harmonious presentation of the books. This
And
is so smart.
the
This is getting.
funny part is, and I'm not kidding, I could walk you upstairs right now. I have both those books and they're together on my bookshelf because they work together.
They work together,
They
and I
do.
mean, and how brilliant is that? I mean, I think that's just beautiful. Wouldn't it be fun just to color code our bookshelves? We could do that,
We could.
or
We
suggest to
could.
you and
I
your
see it.
kids
You see it on Instagram every now and then, and it looks pretty
a
cool to
color-coded
do that.
bookshelf. Let's
That's
do it.
right.
Okay, until next time.
Great. Thank you so much. So thank you everybody for joining us. Make sure to like and follow this video and tell everyone you know about it. And we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.